Here in the good old US of A, we often speak of our sacred right to vote. Every few years, we gather together our little brain cells that we have left, and we venture out to cast our vote for the person that makes, well, us at least the least amount of sick. Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, or God love you, even the Green Party. We can all agree. Seeing Matthew Broaderick get stung in the eye by a bee is awesome. Welcome to Half-Ass Movie Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Half-Ass Movie Podcast, a show where we put together a half-ass theme as an excuse to watch movies. My name is Adam Portress, and joining me today, he too smokes while riding a bike. Sweet Sean Kovacs from the internet.
It's not like I'm a lesbian or anything. I'm attracted to the person. It's just that all the people I've been attracted to happen to be girls.
It happens that way. And he too thanks God every night for what he's been told is a large penis, Bruce Leslie.
In an unrelated story, it does not happen to be mine that I'm praying about. No further questions.
I don't even know how to explain my life anymore, everybody. Welcome back. We are about to finish up headliner Matthew Broaderick, our first kind of voted on theme for H&P Volume 2 here and everything. Bruce, you came up with this one. I got to say, What a smart idea you had there. Just really, ultimately, when you think about it, just giving a backhand of Matthew Broaderick while you were doing it, really.
Yeah, I mean, it was a stupid joke that turned out to have some legs to it.
Hey, that's pretty much, I think, the origin of this show, if you know, on all accounts, if you really go back and think about it for the most part.
I would say about 90% of our best ideas come from just flat-ass, bass-ackwards thoughts.
Yeah, somebody just said, like, hey, here's a stupid, like, literally, Half-Ass Movie Podcast was 11th hour name change.
I was going to say, Sean says 90% of our good ideas. I say both of our good ideas were accidental.
No. Yeah. And after that, who's to say what's to happen? But so, yeah, as the month has gone on here and everything, we're taking a look at the movies of Matthew Broaderick, movies that he starred in, and he had a co-star right underneath him who, after this movie, would go on to be so successful that Matthew Broaderick would never have his name over their name if and they were ever to be in a movie together, which I don't think he's been in a movie with any of these other people ever again post these movies. Am I wrong in that?
Well, there was Glory 2, the comeback, but it wasn't very popular.
The South shall rise again.
It was just him and Andre Brower going out west trying to fight some people at the Alamo or something.
Man,
also, don't forget about that Honda commercial with Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh, that one's awesome.
But yeah, so we're on to what and I'm going to be honest, I'll show my cards a little bit early here. I think this may be, at least of the movies that we watch, Matthew Broderick's best performance.
Oh, that was a question I had in my notes to ask. So let's go ahead and
I think it's his second best. I think that what he's doing as Ferris Bueller literally launched 1,000 careers of young gentlemen who are cute. They said, yes, this is how I shall do it.
I'd like to think that those guys have all little cards that said young, cute gentlemen on them that they just hand out.
I think there's something beautiful in seeing this as an unofficial sequel to Ferris Bueller. Like, Ferris grew up and all he became was a civics teacher. Sloan left him for some rich kid in college. Let's say it was Cameron, to make it even harder on him. And Cameron did go to medical school. And here he is with his new wife living in Omaha. I like it that Ferris Bueller turned into this guy.
That's a good way to look at it, but I think for me mostly it's just seeing Matthew Broderick be put upon. Maybe that's just
it's his most physical performance, right?
Yes, and he also does it very well. He does put upon very, very well, I will say.
But
which is a total change from, you know, the overly confident and good luck having Ferris, or the guy that he was in Project X, or the colonel he was in. I mean, he had some real bad luck there at the end of Glory, spoilers, but he had a lot of good luck along the way. I'm pretty sure the South wins if the movie's correct. I mean, that's not what I learned at school.
I've had a couple of neighbors who think that, I'm sure.
Everybody goes home in a Cadillac. That's the end of Glory. We all know that one.
It's like a really good episode of Let's Make a Deal. That's awesome.
Oh, man.
But before we get into all this good Matthew Broderick stuff, we do want to say a giant thank you to the people that support this show over at patreon.com/HMP. Those awesome pokes get pre-show, post-show, Dinger Zone. And in this week's Dinger Zone, we talk about what our upcoming event will be for next month here and everything. We'll talk a little bit about that at the end of the show. But to get a little extra information, check out patreon.com/HMP. Join up at any level. At whatever you think this show is worth, throw that back our way. Get some more content at the exact same time. And here's the thing, man. Whatever it means to you, if it's $1, if it's $20, whatever it is, we got people all over the spectrum. Whatever makes sense to you, we just appreciate it. And we love all of you guys. Thank you so much for doing that and sharing the show with other people. Write us an email, halfasspod@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Let's get into it, boys. Here's the IMDb plotline for election. As we all know, IMDb 100% correct in everything they say and or do. I love this one. A high school teacher meets his match in an overachieving student politician. That is very much the plot. But that's about as simple as you get. This is written by Tom Perrotta. He wrote The Leftovers. Alexander Payne, we'll get into him in a second. And Jim Taylor, who with Alexander Payne also wrote Citizen Ruth, Sideways, About Schmidt. Jurassic Park 3, you didn't see that one coming, didn't you?
No.
Nah. How about Now I Pronounce You Chuck and Larry? Oh, that's right. But don't worry.
Seriously? I didn't know that one.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Patented Alexander Payne dark humor there.
He also wrote Downsizing too, so you got that. But directed by Alexander Payne, who did Citizen Ruth, About Schmidt, Sideways, The Descendants, Nebraska, Downsizing, and The Holdovers, starring Matthew Broderick, Gracie Reese Witherspoon, Chris Klein, Jessica Campbell, Mark Herlick, and Paul Reeves. This movie came out in 1999. I was a what is it? Sophomore. That's the next to last. That's 11th grade, right? I was in 11th grade in 1990. Well, 11th, 12th grade, I guess, in 1999. I did not see this movie in 1999, which I'm kind of surprised about because I feel like this would have been so up my alley, but for whatever reason, it did not connect with me. And I feel like Matthew Broderick's the reason for that come in 1999.
I had never heard of this movie when it was out in the theater. And then it showed up on cable, and my ex-wife watched it on cable and said, this is a really funny. She says this is a really funny movie. You need to watch it. So we went and rented it at Blockbuster, whatever, and I watched it. And I do remember this being right around 2000, because you'll probably remember this, Sean, and I don't know if you were in tune with it enough to remember, Adam, but in like 2000, 2001, there was a whole lot of talk on the news about counting ballots in Florida because it was the Al Gore, George W. Bush presidential election. And I mean, they were talking nonstop about ballots and elections. So like HBO, Cinemax, one of the premium networks thought, it'd be funny. Let's just keep showing election as like people saying, haha, this is the same thing that happened at this high school is going on in our nation now.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Hanging chads.
Yeah, a lot of election talk. So when I saw it, it was already, over a year old.
Sean?
I loved this movie the first time I saw it. I'm going to say that I watched it on video as well. I definitely didn't see it in the theater. Being a father of two in all in 1999, 2 babies. But it was one of those movies where it was surprising, because even then, it's still to this point, you still think of, at least I did at the time, you think of Matthew Broderick as somebody who's like, like fun and funny, and his movies are fun and he's cool, and he is anything but in this movie. And I really, really have to bring this up now, because I know that this is about Matthew Broderick this month.
Mm-hmm.
He has a run for his money as far as like horrible people in real life go, with Reese Witherspoon, who is maybe one of the worst people in Hollywood.
Oh, no.
She is the worst. I hate her. I hate her. She's awful.
But other than that,
I used to know her pediatric ophthalmologist from down in Nashville, but he only knew her when she was a kid.
It's just like when she was 7, she was a delight.
He said, I didn't think she was all that pretty, but she went on to be famous anyway.
That's good. That's great.
Gross.
That's great.
Don't send her to Hollywood.
She is the worst. She's awful. If you need any proof of that. The only proof I actually have is when she got pulled over by the police about 10 years ago.
That was in
And
Atlanta too, wasn't it?
I'm not sure, but she tried to do you know who I am, her way out of it, out of a DUI. I don't know how that ended, but she's still alive, so not the way that I was hoping.
I like the new Justin Timberlake story where he's just like, oh man, this is gonna be bad for the tour, and the cop's like, who are you? He's too young. He had no clue who Justin Timberlake was. So he was just, as far as he was concerned, he was just booking a dude for drunk driving.
Oh man,
Just
it's
some
so weird to
guy.
think a cop is too young to know who Justin Timberlake is.
Yeah.
I remember a day when the cop would be too old to know who he was.
Now he's like, I don't know who you are, old man. You're coming with me.
And so because she is in this movie and she's basically playing herself in this movie, at this time in her life, it's perfect. It's like Keanu as Ted, Theodore Logan, where it's like, oh, this is exactly who this person is currently.
What studying did you do for this role? Studying for what now?
Exactly. It's like whenever Ray Romano plays somebody from Long Island, you're like, yeah, he worked his whole life to get that accent.
I spent 30 years studying the locals. Do you
My
think there
brother
could
is
be?
tall.
Do you think there could be a Reese Witherspoon month ahead in the future? I don't know. Have you guys seen Freeway? That's a fun one.
Look, I think it would be really fun because there's a lot to cover there. But I can't do it, man. I can't do it. It'll just be me constantly going, I hate this woman. I hate her with the brilliance of 1,000 suns. I cannot stand this one.
I think we got a number.
Do you have a favorite Reese Witherspoon role?
Legally Blonde's really good. She's kind of perfect for that role.
Yeah. I think I'd have to go with you there. I'm just trying to think. Like, I feel like she's been in good stuff, but like I wouldn't put my thumb on like Reese was what carried it, even though she's pretty integral to the plot on this one.
I would say Legally Blonde is all her, man.
Legally Blonde is all her.
That thing that lives or dies with her. If that's like, and God bless her, it's a different movie if you put it. But if you like replace her, say Anna Faris, that's a completely different movie.
And no matter how you feel about Freeway, you feel about Freeway because of Reese's performance. If you hate it, it's because of Reese. If you love it, it's because of Reese.
And you can say that, like, look back just before this and stuff with like her in like Fear with Marky Wahlberg there and everything. That was his first big thing. And like, but even though I don't know anyone who really saw that movie and stuff, but like the trailers were everywhere. And like, you just saw this cute little blonde in it and you couldn't help but look at her. And like, she has that ability. And that's what kind of cuts her in this movie too. In a movie that has so many great like kid actors and stuff like that who look like the kids that live in Nebraska. She does not look like she lives in Nebraska. It's just like this one shining little star amongst all this, this sea of dirty clay. And then there's this one shiny pearl out there and you're like, what's going on? But she's really, really good in this. And like, you just see her character's thinking and going through all of the emotions and stuff. And like, you can really see it in her eyes and stuff like that. She is constantly living within that character as she's playing it. And she's just, this go around, I was really shocked at like how strong of a character she's got.
I love seeing that scene with her mom where you realize why this character is the way she is. Because when the mom is talking about why she lost the election, she's like, is it because you didn't listen to me about those things that you should have put in your speech? And it's like, oh, wow, this is exactly why this person is this way. It's a really telling scene, and even though it's like 30 seconds long.
And, says a little something that dad's not around and the way that she approaches these older men. I think that there's a lot that they're giving the audience credit to be able to put a lot of dots together on your own, which I always like films that do that. They're so much more fun to talk about.
There is that great line where she's like, you might be thinking that I went to this teacher because as a replacement for my dad, but no, it has nothing to do with that at all. I just liked him because he made me feel safe.
Yeah.
He made me feel taken care of.
Yes, I love it.
It's like, it's so not subtle, but subtle at the same time. It's just perfect.
At the same time, too, though, like that's how a 17-year-old kid thinks.
Yes.
You know, it's just like, oh, well,
Absolutely.
that's that. And it's like, well, you can't see the broader picture that's clearly right in front of you.
Yeah, there's a certain part of youth that can't grasp the concept of having motivations that you lack insight on. You know what I mean? Like you were convinced I 100% do exactly what I on the conscious level want myself to do with totally no belief or understanding of psychology or deeper motivations and things, exactly like what she says here. It's great. I mean, it's just so well written. And I think the fact that it's so well written, Alexander Payne did a lot of writing on this, but I think it's a good time to sort of explain the adapted screenplay here, because that is, I do believe the Oscar was nominated for was Best Adapted Screenplay, adapted from a book, but the book election was released in 1998. The movie election was released in 1999, but the movie election started shooting in 97 before the book was published, but they were writing the screenplay in the book at basically the same time, Jim Taylor and Alexander Payne, and that's why the book and the movie end differently. But I think that's other than like the only other story. The book ends.
Aliens.
The book ends with Mr. McAllister, the Matthew Broderick character, in Omaha working as a used car salesman. Tracy comes in to buy a used car, and they kind of like get along, like sort of a happy ending.
I think
this is way better.
This is the right ending.
Oh, no kidding, man. This is a bajillion times better.
This is the correct one.
Yeah. So other than like when Stanley Kubrick told what's his name that he had to write 2001 from a short story to a novel so that he could make the movie, is about the only other time I know like co-development of the novel and the movie that's based on the novel, which is kind of strange because neither Alexander Payne or Jim Taylor were necessarily household names at this time either. But the movie, I think, certainly found more success than the novel, from at least in my non-book reading group of friends.
Yeah, well, no, he doesn't like readers. Don't get those out of here. That's why he's got me around, you know, keeping the reader quotient low.
I don't know. I read a lot.
No, that's what I'm saying. It evens it out.
I don't know that the book of Election has gotten much praise, but the movie seems to have gotten a lot.
But yeah, Reese Witherspoon's great. Chris Klein, again, somebody who I wrote off, and I think I wrote him off far too early, I think, because in American Pie, he is a goofy goofus, right?
Well, I'm going to say nobody plays dumb better than Chris Klein.
He does. I mean, he's very well.
He's so good at it that I'm starting to think he might not be acting. Like, I think that just might be Chris Klein.
I thought that
I believe talk shows or anything, so I don't know.
Here's the thing. Now, I used to think that previously, and I've actually come around the other direction. I used to go like, Chris Klein has got to be the biggest dumb dummy that there ever did be. Maybe, but I think he's only good at acting at a couple of different things, and this is one of those things. Is where he can just kind of play that like, aw shucks, goofy. There's a quality to him that there's an aw shucksness about him that, like, even though like there's not a ton of things that he does horribly bad in this movie, but even if he did something that was even slightly off, you wouldn't even care that much, just because the character itself is almost kind of an innocent in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's definitely an innocent, but it's the kind of innocence that can only occur when your life is great without having to try. That's the only thing that allows you to preserve that kind of innocence.
Maybe, but at the same time too, like, you know, in the exact same household, his sister's living, a pretty hellish experience, and under the same roof, he's fine. And a lot of it is like, you know, for better or for worse, his dumb outlook on everything. Like he can kind of turn it into just being like,
but also who got dumped and who got the beeger in this brother-sister relationship.
Yeah, but like he's so dumb he doesn't even appreciate it.
He is definitely dumb. I love that.
He does. He's just like, well, I guess this is just kind of what happens. And like, I think that was also part of the great thing about this movie is just like, to varying degrees, of course, I think we all know a lot of people that are like the people that are in this movie, the Chris Klein type, the overachiever, you know, Tracy type and all that. Like those people existed, not to quite these levels, of course, because we got to make a movie here and everything. But A lot of these characters struck really true with me of people that I kind of knew in high school in one way, shape, or form.
I definitely related to the kid counting the ballots. You know, I was always like that kind of guy.
Yeah. Like, and like, what a great look for those two kids. I like, my guess is they're, locals or whatever, but like, they look fantastic. They look like that one kid looks like like my brother, for Christ's sakes.
So this is 1999 when this is released. Like I said, written somewhat by committee in 1997 as it's being filmed. So it takes a little while to produce it. But anyway, the point I want to get to is this character of Tracy Flick, in your opinion, do you think it was influenced by Monica Lewinsky, who, Adam, you may remember was in the news a lot?
Oh, I know. Listen, you can't not know that. Come on.
If she was influenced by it, it's of the public perception at the time of who Monica Lewinsky is versus
I don't think that Alexander Payne had inside scoops or anything.
But I mean, we as a public really gave her the short sheets in that situation.
I feel like you made that clear. I'm going to say the myth of Monica Lewinsky, or the character of Monica Lewinsky that was created rather than the actual real person, because I don't know the real person, but I do know that there was not so much, I want to say media coverage, but it was more like when you're talking to a person, like before we had things like Facebook for our parents and grandparents to share ridiculous lies, they just did it in person. Now, a lot of people may not know this, but there was a time where you could be sitting next to, let's just say purely theoretically, your mother-in-law, and your mother-in-law would say something like, well, Monica Lewinsky told everybody she was going to DC to get her presidential knee pads. Like, say this stuff, and I would believe it. I didn't know any better. What was I? I was only 20 something. I was naive. But I think that Alexander Payne was only 30 something when he's working on this. And I just don't know if maybe that public perception is they're created a character that was sort of what public perception tried to create out of Monica Lewinsky, is that tiger lady who would do anything to get on top, especially the way they have her creepily getting in that limousine at the end with the senator.
Right. See? And I think that's basically why they ended it there, is because, of course, that's naturally what the next phase of her life would look like. However, I've got to bring this up because I freaking love Monica Lewinsky. I love her. I think that she is a survivor. I think that she got shat on by everyone, all comedians, all headlines, all journos, everybody. And she came out the other side, and she's somehow, kind of an amazing human being. She literally
came out on
Let
top.
me finish.
Sorry.
She literally said, like, no one else should have to go through this style of bullying that I went through. And so she started a foundation to help people who have to deal with this sort of thing. And I think it's really, really amazing that that's what she did, instead of like, if what happened to the Star Wars kid happened to me, there's no way I'm not taking people out.
Oh yeah, I'm burning the planet down, boy.
Yeah. So like, to think of where she took that, it's sort of a miracle that that's where she ended up. And just looking like just the toughest human being in the world on the end. Like, it's just incredible to me.
Monica Lewinsky handbags. She makes handbags. You know that? That's another thing she does. She makes handbags.
I think
everything you say is wonderful. That's why I tried to go back and say that I don't know Monica Lewinsky. You know what I mean? Never met her, never talked to her, don't know her personally, but she has come out through a whole lot, come out on top. But that Monica Lewinsky scandal is what we'll call it, the Bill Clinton scandal. How about that?
Right.
The Bill Clinton scandal. I just think it was so heavy. I mean, it's so hard for us to imagine people giving a rat's ass now,
Right.
And I'm not trying to stir up politics, but I'm just saying we've come a little way since 1999 in terms of what we'll tolerate. But anyway, back to the point. It was just such a major thing. I can't see it not having some influence in this story.
No, I think you're right. Especially
the public perception.
Right. I think you're right on that. I do. But because they had I just built this beautiful soapbox. I had to stand on it for a
Okay.
bit.
And also, I like it that Monica Lewinsky is proud of the fact that she may be mentioned she may have gotten more rap song shout outs than any other living human.
Right.
And she loves that on her Twitter. Well, I guess it's not called Twitter anymore. That was like her bio on there. It's like, I'm the person from over, you don't know who I am. I'm the person from over 121 rap songs. Later, she's like, ask your dad. He knows who I am. Stuff like that.
It seems like a very high number.
Somebody fact checked her on it, and her number was low.
That's wild, man. Is somebody like doing full concept albums to her?
To remember, in the 90s, "Take You Back to My Place, Let You Give Me the Lewinsky" or something was probably a well worn out rhyme that got spat. Give me the old Monica, the Lewinsky. I'm sure that was by people who thought they were geniuses. And not all these guys are
my
winning
soul
Grammys.
R&B album has a song called "Give Me the Lewinsky."
Well,
yeah.
But
Anyway.
I wasn't listening to such explicit things. I was a good kid, so
There was something from the early 90s where a pregnant girl got elected prom queen, and the high school burned all the ballots and claimed someone else won, and it became a scandal because the kids who counted the ballots ratted on the administration, and they didn't want the pregnant girl to get the prom queen because they thought it would make all the freshmen go get pregnant so they could be prom queen, because that's what kids do. But anyway,
I gotta
that
get
ain't why
it,
they
Ma.
get pregnant.
I gotta get the. I
I
gotta
can draw
get the
you a
crown.
picture on why they get pregnant.
Gotta get the crown.
But anyway,
Ma.
they claim, the creators, Alexander Payne and the other guy that I've mentioned before, they claim that Running Across That Story was a big part of the influence on this. But there's got to be some DC stuff too.
So are you still into Gerbert full time at this point, Fortress?
I'm not a full time Gerbert guy, but I'm at least I'm a dabbler.
You got a toe in Gerbert.
Listen,
you
always
kind of far dirtier than I thought.
You always
it's
leave
a religious
at least a little
puppet show.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember you guys mentioning Gerbert before. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, for what it's worth, when I was in college, I had a girlfriend who was eerily similar to Tracy Flick. I would go so far as to say her name even kind of rhymed with her. Now, I dated this girl circa 96, so, she was old news by the time I saw this movie, but it was so similar, I had to start looking up, did Alexander Payne ever date this girl? Like the name was the same, a little bit of the fooling around with a high school teacher when she was in high school thing was the same. The working for a senator in DC after graduation was the same. She wound up, I'm not going to say much more because she has a bit of a public persona. She wound up on Glenn Beck's radio network and doing a podcast about how great fossil fuels are, like how fossil fuels will save the world.
Well, they've done good so far.
Married to a guy whose father's a billionaire, and the guy will inherit $1 billion someday. So she's got her own private jet. The family she married into used to own Funimation.
Wow.
Yeah, but she is definitely a Tracy Flick, man. Same political party and everything. It's just crazy.
Wow.
Did you guys ever?
I'm going to quietly send you the name so you can see what I mean by it was similar to Tracy.
Yes, please.
Once again, she does not use her real name, but I still don't want to spit her real name out there.
Sure.
Julia Roberts, I'm sorry. We got to call you out in the air. It's listen, Bruce is hiding behind this sort of stuff, but I'll put it on Front Street for everybody. Julia Roberts, you're on blast, sweetheart.
Well, she shouldn't have dumped me for Richard Gere.
Your gerbil's bigger, right?
Of course it is.
I use a guinea pig, bro.
You heard the beginning of the show.
Nice.
I love the fashion of this thing, again, because I was in high school in 1999. Again, looking back on this many, many years later and everything, I'm just like, this is absolutely accurate to everything that we were wearing. How the building looked from the cinder block walls and everything. I'm like, they shot this in a school. This was not a set. This was real stuff. The crappy carpet and everything. That's another thing I like about this movie is the set design on a lot of stuff is really, really great.
It is good.
When we get into the sister's room there and everything, just the little junk that's all around, just really good little stuff everywhere. I love it. But yeah, this just watching this was very much like going back into time, going like, oh yeah, I used to have a shirt like that with the little just the button up, the little front with the textures and all this kind of crap. I'm just like, yeah, the undershirts and everything. I'm like, this is perfect. I love it so much.
So-
It was just like walking down memory lane.
So his friend, the teacher who lost his family, lost his job, had to move back to Wisconsin because he had his affair, I guess we'll call it, of with Tracy Flick here.
Yeah.
So that actor's Mark Herlick. Do you guys recall at all when we've discussed Mark Herlick before? I just thought I'd kind of mention the little podcast.
I know he's in
degree of
Jurassic.
separation.
I know he's in Jurassic Park 3, which makes sense because
I'm
Lookin' at
pretty
me.
sure.
movie.
I'm pretty sure he was God on Preacher.
Really?
I think so. I'll check that real quick because that's, it's bold to say somebody's God and not double check your sources. So let me double check that while you guys talk amongst yourself about the genius that is Mark Herlick's.
He was
performance here.
indeed.
He's very good in this movie.
Yeah, he was God. 15 episodes. How about that?
Wow.
I was like, I'm looking at him like, where do I know this guy? There you go.
His crying, his being like the guy who never left high school. I mean, he plays it really well here. I think he it gives a real good performance here, and then he goes on to be the creator of all creation or whatever.
He looks like he's got like a really great look and everything. He plays it perfectly. I love the just cheesy ass love letter bullcrap thing that he put together for her that was just so corny and dumb. God, I love it. And then we pull it down and he's just welling up because like I love how everybody who does like, and everybody for the most part, everyone in this is a pretty scummy person, which is I think why I didn't like the movie the first time I saw it, because I'm like, who am I rooting for? I hate all of these people. But that's kind of the point. But he is like the whole thing. I love his character. I love how we set up everything, and every guy that does every horrible thing, we set them up to just be absolutely awful. And it's just great that because you know how it is. We go back and look at movies that are 20, 30 years old and stuff. You can get into these situations where you're like, oh, Jesus, I can't believe we're watching this. And now we thankfully are in an era where we're just like, oh, okay, thank Christ we're on the right side of history. And we're properly knocking down all this stuff as opposed to going, hey, Well,
you're talking about 20 years ago. My curious question here, this is a 25-year-old movie. Is this story made today? And if not, which is the bigger taboo? The sex or the politics? Because I almost think it's the politics that make you want to avoid this movie today.
I could totally see this being something on Netflix. I totally could see that.
I really think right now, anything that depicts sex with an underage person and that is not absolutely villainizing the adult doing it doesn't get made and released.
Oh, without a doubt. No, you're totally right.
So that's the part I'm talking about. I
haven't watched
that age gap romance.
But the characters would have to state over and over again how she was held back a year and she's actually 18. Like that would have to happen again and again.
Like he broke the school rule because you can't sleep with the student, but it totally was not statutory. You know what?
Right.
Listen, I don't know for nothing because I ain't watched the show. I've only heard things, but ain't that Euphoria show about a whole bunch of kids doing it?
Yes, but it's all about like it's a bad thing. Like I mean,
like I said, I don't know from
the kids are in charge. It's also more about mostly. I don't know. I haven't watched the show. Listen to me talk like I know what the hell I'm talking.
Yeah,
about.
I watch it religiously, as you guys know. I'm probably Vancouver's biggest Euphoria fan.
I was just like, I'm not the market.
I think I can say, no, I'm sorry, I'm lying.
Yeah. Speaking of fans, Jessica Campbell gives in a fantastic performance as Tammy in this movie. She's another one that's just like that kind of goes under the radar here as far as, really just fantastic performances in this movie.
A great actor who just disappeared.
I don't know that passed away.
Well, do you know though, before she passed away, she quit acting. She became a naturopathic provider. Do you guys know what a naturopathic provider is?
That's a lady that just rubs
I do.
honey in it.
I'm pretty well versed in it, but why don't you explain it to the people who are listening, just in case?
The answer is you don't know what it is, and neither do they. It's just a name, and it sounds kind of good, so people listen to them. But she was an anti-vaxxer.
You made me look like a fool in front of everyone.
You put dirt and honey together, and you rub it on your chest. If that's what you do, it cures everything.
Well, she was an anti-vaxxer who died in December 2020 with flu-like symptoms that no one knows what it was. Because she refused to be tested because she's an naturopathic
big mystery
provider.
We'll never know.
But the locally sourced honey did not cure her. So there, that's my soapbox. You had your soapbox. That was my soapbox. Don't go to former actors who are naturopathic providers.
Listen, that's not a word I can spell, so I don't think I'm going to have any problem looking that one
You
up.
get
So
you get one, a former actor or a naturopathic provider, but you don't get both. Pick which one you want and go to them.
That's fair enough. Let's talk about the old Broaderick here.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, I think this is. I like seeing some age on Matthew Broaderick here. I like seeing just the weight of the world put upon him. Of course, there are also his own decisions and problems that he makes, which is great. But man, oh man, does he just he gets put through the ringer in this movie in the best of ways.
From his own choices, though.
Yeah.
It's his own choices that really get him. Like every time he makes a poor decision, he gets he has to pay for it. It's pretty great.
His character's luck in life seems totally on par with where his career is at about this point compared to Ferris Bueller. Like Ferris Bueller, man, everything is coming up. Ferris, he's in the parade. He's got the best looking girl. And Matthew Broderick was just showing up and getting leads back then. Now he's got to get stung in the eye by a bee if he wants to be in a lead. And this is some indie film with a budget that's nothing compared to what a Hughes flick would have been. So I think he is actually channeling his own career in the schlubbiness of his character, and I love it.
I tell you one thing, though, I would bet you good old money that this movie got its budget on account of Matthew Broderick. Take a guess as to what this Alexander Payne movie from 1999 costs.
I think
$25 million.
I think we don't know the answer.
No, you are. Well, Sean is dead on, so I think 25 million. I think this, and again, his movie before this was Citizen Ruth, that went through all kinds of problems and changed its name and everything, and gone through so many different edits and all this kind of stuff. So I don't know, like outside of Matthew Broderick's name, I don't know how he gets $25 million to make this movie. Because he hadn't proven it at this point, before this and everything. So I think Matthew Broderick is another reason that this movie gets made.
Yeah. I had seen, what had I seen here? I was reading about the production on this, and I think that it was like a thing where they got more money once they had some stuff done and people felt like this was going to be something special. Like, I think that budget got like tripled in the process. I had read something somewhere, but I could be way off too, because I can't find it now to tell you the source.
I'm a little bit peeved at myself because I didn't get this movie, because I knew we were doing Matthew Broderick month. I knew we were doing Election, but I didn't pick the Criterion Blu-ray up when the sale came on there and everything.
Let me see.
I could have a little even more background.
I'm going to go to Box Office Mojo. I get a lot of shoot, I messed up there.
While you're doing that, 99. Are we still in that whole jailbait?
Oh yeah,
thing that was happening.
Definitely, yes.
Because you got 1999. You're also looking at American Beauty in this year and stuff as well. Right. So it is the young love is in the air, or luster is in the air, as it were.
Because Spy Magazine, when they still made Spy Magazine, I remember they had a cover photo which was jailbait of the year, like 90 whatever, and it's just making fun of how sexualized young girls are. And I don't remember seeing Greasy Reezy on it, but all of your usual suspects are there. Like your Liv Tyler, your Alicia Silverstone, like all of those people are there. And so to have Greasy, having a sexual relationship with a teacher, but also not being sexualized at all. I didn't feel gross.
I mean, we're still pretty close to we're still pretty close to the Hit Me Baby One More Time music video, which I mean, used a real 15-year-old to sexualize schoolgirls. So it's still in the zeitgeist pretty hard. And the fact that she doesn't pull off some kind of Britney Spears looking outfit to try to be sexualized, and also the fact that they don't go more erotic with the lesbian kisses that his sister has, shows you that Alexander Payne wanted to rise above the trends. Because it would have been great. It was pretty trendy around 99 to have the I guess the term they used, I hope this isn't terribly offensive, but like the lipstick lesbian makeout scene that was totally unrealistic. And this tends to look a little bit more like what I imagine it would be like. I've never been a teenage lesbian.
I don't think you're offending anybody by using that term. I think, I mean, because I mean, it's the best descriptor you can have for what that is.
And the 90s was replete with it, you know?
Yes. And it's all like that fake, like that fake girl power thing.
I mean,
like
was Reese in Intolerable Cruelty?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Because they even had that male gaze girl on girl kiss with the stringy spit with what's her name? Buffy the Vampire Slayer kissed the Blair's in her name somehow. The one that was in the Hellboy movies.
Yeah, Selma Blair and
Selma Blair. That's it. I could not remember Selma Blair's name. And then Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Freddie Prinze Jr.'s paramour.
There's no moment in this movie where you feel awful watching it, where you're like, oh man, I can't believe that they used to make movies like this. There isn't a moment like that in this movie.
And it feels like it could be. Like, it feels like that moment is like lurking around the corner, but it never really shows itself, which is nice. You can just go like, oh, thank God. Because even Broaderick's character at the beginning looks at his coworker and just goes, hey, what you're doing is wrong. You realize this is very, very wrong. And so at least
this is the worst thing you can do.
Yeah.
It says to him.
Which is hilarious because then he goes and does every worst thing himself, which is great.
Yeah.
I feel like a movie. It feels like a movie that could never be made today because it's too good. Like we've made some arbitrary lines in the sand that you can't cross, that this movie crosses in the sake of sort of cinema verite. I mean, it feels to me very close to what I would imagine your life falling apart at 35 years old would feel like, you know, not that people like Sean and I would have any experience to draw on.
Hey, my life's pretty apart. Man. Come on.
It's funny because that moment where he's outside and like, you know, like just losing his mind at that moment. I was trying to flash back to what my moment like that felt like during that time for me. And none of and literally it was like, you know, none of what happened to me was by choice. Like it wasn't my choice. It just turned out that everything that's happened since then has been a complete win for me. But like, but like it wasn't by my own design, like it is Matthew Broderick's character here. But I can remember feeling like, oh no, I've got to change everything now in order to get through this. And I did.
Well, you know, when he's at the hotel there and everything, and goes to the vending machine and goes to get his little kit there and everything, and it kind of stalls out in the middle, and then he just goes ape shit on the vending machine and everything.
Right.
Well, that was me today. About everything. That going ape shit and yelling. That's why my voice sounds terrible today, everybody. I've been yelling because I've been angry. How
many vending machines screwed you over today, Portress? God. Jesus.
Listen, between cutting myself and punching things and yelling at stuff, I don't know how I'm living at this point. So it's been quite a tale.
I think you may see the humor in this a little bit more than Sean will, Adam. But when he like got the hotel room and he goes and he cleans off his nut sack and he's like getting all prepared for the girl and she stands him up. To me, that kind of felt like trying to put together a night of D&D. Where you're getting the space, you're making sure the room's cleaned up, the game room's cleaned up, you go out, you pick up snacks, pick up beer, then suddenly person after person has to cancel out, and there you are, just eating a family-sized bag of Doritos by yourself.
Can I tell you that I ended up getting married on account of that actually happening?
You got married on account of D&D?
It wasn't D&D, but it was a party that many people were like expected to come to, and only one person showed up. And that's all you got to do, everybody. Just show up to a party that invites you to. I'll marry you. I don't care.
I've always said that the only thing worse than a party nobody shows up at is a party that one person shows up at. Yeah. Because then you still got some obligations, and it's going to be bad.
Yeah, but then when you end up having sex with that person, it's not the worst thing in the world.
Well, Sean, remind me not to accept Adam's party invitation.
Yeah, Bruce, you want to come over? You want to come over for some parcheesi?
Roll the dice, boys. Let's see what happens.
I got a D20, and I'm not talking about dice.
We're rolling that natural on that one, boy.
What do you think of my D6 there, Sean?
Lordy.
I gotta look out for you.
Terrible.
And moving on. What were we talking about again? Are we still doing the podcast? Or are we done?
Yes. So I like, again.
Ooh, I got to share something before I forget.
Go ahead.
Okay. Because Election exists in the same universe as Sideways. Did you guys know that?
I didn't. Wow, that's a big deal.
Okay.
The principal in this movie, the Hendricks guy, Walt Hendricks, he shows up in Sideways on vacation sipping wine as the same character. And Alexander Payne said, yes, he is the same character in Sideways, takes place in the same universe as Election. So I would like to see some kind of like shared universe sequel, like their version of the Alexander Payne Avengers.
I love this. I love this idea. I love everything you're saying. The only problem is that there are some characters that are played by the same actor, and so that's when things start going sideways a bit. Sideways.
Well, we got a multiverse.
I didn't even mean to do that.
It's Alexander Payne's Ray Nicolette. Ooh,
Alexander Payne's multiverse. People can't get enough of these multiverses. It's the Sideways verse.
Listen, man, don't put things into Paramount's head, man. Paramount will leap on that one, and they will. They ain't got nothing else better to do over there. They're like, Sony said no to that idea. I feel like we could pick it up.
I think this movie might have the most voiceover of any movie I actually enjoyed.
Well, it's good. It's good voiceover.
I know. Yeah. And I think at some point in our lives when we decide that we're going to be like better than everyone else briefly or smarter than everyone else, like at some point, don't we all get told that like voiceover is a crutch for bad writing? I mean, we've all heard that, right?
Yeah. You literally hear, Brian Cox scream it in adaptation and stuff while a narrating voice is going on. And God help you if you put a narrator in that. That's lazy screenwriting, my friends.
But I think it works great here. I couldn't imagine it without it.
What is the difference between this movie and Raising Arizona and every other movie that has voiceover in it? Like, I can't figure out why those movies are great with narration and why almost any other movie with narration is just awful.
So much of this movie is internal, right? And there's so much internal conflict, and you need the internal narrative to make that work. And I think the only other way to get there is to have somebody talking in the mirror or to have somebody have an imaginary, you can go all Charlie, what's his name for who wrote adaptation? Charlie Kaufman?
Charlie Kaufman.
Okay. I was wanting to make sure I had that last name right, because I started thinking of Andy Kaufman, who I was watching some wrestling with him and Jerry Lawler.
Well, you got the Jim Carrey, so it all kind of starts falling together.
But anyway, yes. I think that's what makes the VO work, is because it's all so internal, and you really do need to hear her thinking things out loud. Like, I don't have daddy issues. He just makes me feel safe, like, and like a child.
Well, there's also
I
part
don't know
of
any
it.
other way to communicate that stuff.
There's part of it too, where like if you take a look at an example, another example that's very similar to this one is Goodfellas, right? So when those voiceovers, well, many times those voiceovers happen, they go on they hit his still frame, right? The action, still frame. And here's a little aside based upon what you're seeing right now and everything. So this kind of has that same sort of deal where we're just like, hey, we're showing you this thing. Hold on one second. Let us give you a little bit of context to what's going on. And then we jump right back into it and stuff like that. It reads more like a book that way than a movie. And I think that's how it kind of functions, in that very kind of literary sense, but in moving picture.
And
excellent point.
It kind of worked with my theme of an older version of Ferris, because Ferris is talking directly to the camera plenty in that one. And here we're getting the VO, not necessarily talking directly to the camera, but talking directly to the audience.
And it's another good thing too, that it's not just one person.
Hold on, guys. Like, you've been talking for 10 minutes now on my question. So what I wanted to say was that I think that I think you're right. I think that Bruce is right in that it's internally, right? That the person is speaking internally, basically to the audience, but also to themselves. And the other thing is that it's also that, like, a lot of voiceover tends to be like a character walking outside and then the voiceover going, I decided it was time to take a walk. It's like, yeah, we already see you walking. You don't need to say that part. And both Raising Arizona and Election are both internally not It's never stated out loud within the movie that it's in.
Yeah, you're not waiting for something, but as long as it's within the actual story and stuff itself, and really reveals something to you, like you said, Sean, the kind of like, I decided to do this, narrating it while you're doing that feels like you watching the movie back and everything and going, oh gosh, something doesn't fit here. We're not giving enough context. Let's put in some voiceover or something like that to just fill in the gaps where we don't think that people are fitting in all the bits and bobs that we actually want them to. It's a fix as opposed to a narrative thing, because when this, I can almost guarantee you, when this was put together and put down on paper and everything, those freeze frames and voiceovers were written into it as a way to tell the story, as opposed to something to crutch on to help you complete the things that are lacking within said story.
Excellent. So basically now we kind of have to ask ourselves, right? Because we're here, because we're at this is the end, right? This is the end of Matthew Broderick.
Yeah.
So do you guys think that Matthew Broderick is a good actor?
I do now. After seeing this movie, I think he is a competent actor. I don't think he's great, but I don't think that I would sit around and deride him either. I mean, he grew up doing this. He's done this for his whole life. He knows how to do this. He's never going to be remembered as the greatest actor of a generation. He's not even going to be remembered as the greatest cute kid actor from the 80s, because that's always going to be Michael J. Fox.
Yep.
But I think he's competent. And, I've seen him in some more recent stuff, which is lower profile, and they don't ask him to do a lot, but he does what they ask, and he's competent. So now you need somebody to play an old man in your movie. He can play an old man in your movie.
I don't want to sound like I'm shitting on anybody's front porch here or anything, but it's kind of amazing how far Matthew Broderick's career has gotten and how, long-standing he's been. And he's good. He's not amazing, but he is very good. But like as long and varied and wide as his career has been and everything, I'm just, sometimes I'm surprised, because I feel like he's not a middling talent, but just not an amazing talent, especially coming from like that era and everything.
Also, aren't we playing like a little game? Who besides Matthew Broderick could have gotten this movie made or whatever? Like, who else could have done this?
Well, let me finish, because you guys just talked about whether you think Matthew Broderick is a good actor or not, and like a good co-host would do. So, Sean, what do you think? I'm glad you asked, guys.
I was almost finished with my final thought, but that's okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So,
go ahead.
I think he's gotten to be a better actor over the years and everything. I think he's grown, but like, I don't know that he's ever going to have that level of where you're like, boy, oh boy, Matthew Broderick in that movie. He's always very serviceable, and I think that's what you get out of him, is a decently serviceable job low these many years. Sean, what did you think about Matthew Broderick?
Thank you, Adam. I'm glad you asked me. A fine co-host.
You have a prepared statement?
So here is what I think. I never thought I would be saying this about Matthew Broderick, but Matthew Broderick is basically like Ryan Reynolds in this fact. Ryan Reynolds is great in that lane that's the Ryan Reynolds lane. I think that Matthew Broderick is great in the Matthew Broderick lane, meaning that unlike Ryan Reynolds, Matthew Broderick basically has two lanes. He's got the lane that he had when he was a kid. Your Ferris Bueller's Day Off, your War Games, like he's kind of a smarty, cute boy at that point. That he was great in that. Then he ages out of that, and then you have the second part of his career, which is this, The Producers. Where he's that character that's the put upon person through basically his own actions, but he is put upon in those movies, and he's great in those movies. But anything that's outside of that lane, Matthew Broderick is dog shit. I think that Matthew Broderick is awful in Glory. He is literally the worst part of that movie. Also, he's completely wrong for Project X, because not a single person will ever believe that dude flew fighter jets. That is not a thing.
That's a hard as nails military man, and you know it. You take it back. Take it back.
None of those things work. But if you give Matthew Broderick the right role, he is going to murder that role and be great in that role, and everyone's going to be talking about how great Matthew Broderick is again. But anything outside of that lane, he's not right. Like, you don't want Matthew Broderick is the really cool dad. Like, Adam Sandler is his son. That is never going to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that is a terrible, terrible movie. But like, Election, he is great. And the producers, he is. I hate that because it's a musical, but he's great in it. I understand he's good in it. Like, so in that way, he's like Ryan Johnson or Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds is good as Ryan Reynolds, and I think that I think that he is a good actor at times. When you put him in the right thing, he's great. But anything else out of that, and that was kind of his problem in the early 90s, is that he kept being like, no, I'm the everyman. I could do anything. And it's like, no, buddy, no, you can't.
I got a question for you, Sean.
Yes.
Who do you think, instead of Matthew Broderick, could have played this role in this movie?
That is an excellent question, Bruce, and asked at the correct time. I think that if you have somebody that can work within that Alexander Payne method of work, I think that your Edward Norton could probably do that as well, especially in '99. I think he probably could kill that role.
And I apologize. Who did you say before Ed Norton?
I just said Ed Norton.
Okay, good. I thought I missed somebody for a second. I apologize.
No. I think your Edward Norton is probably your best bet. Maybe even like 99. Is it too early to bring in Matt Damon?
I think it's too
early for Damon.
Too early.
I think it's too early, but I like the idea of a latter-day Damon in this role.
I got an interesting choice for you, and you got the Alexander Payne connection there, so that's fun. I got Christian Slater as an odd choice.
Ooh, that's really good. Although it would be much more dark and menacing.
Oh yeah, it'd be a different character, but like, I mean, for something,
it'd almost be Very Bad Things.
Yeah. But I could see him. You know, you can crap on that character real good.
Who do you think, Bruce?
I think I have an obvious choice, and it's the Alexander Payne connection and Giamatti. Because, we were talking about the holdovers and around the kids, and I think a younger Giamatti in this role is great. Giamatti's already got the droopy eyelids, so you give him the bee sting on it. Giamatti does Schleppy really good.
Jesus Christ, it bit me in the eye again. Oh my God.
And that's just the name that popped into my head because of Alexander Payne and Sideways and all that. But but once it popped into my head, I couldn't get it out.
Hey, listen, with that in a time machine.
I do have beef with Paul Giamatti's dad, but that's for another day.
What, you think Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame?
Heck yes, I do.
All right, boys, let's get down to it. Movies only come in two forms. They're either art or fart. Bruce, Election from 1999. Art or fart, sir?
I mean, art or fart, are we not better than that?
No, we're not. We're clearly, this is what we do.
I think it's art. There's no question. I really, really enjoy movies that make you talk about stuff. Like, this is a movie I can sit and say things that happened in the 90s that it reminds me of, things that happen now, how you wouldn't make it now. I mean, what we just did, I could do whether it was on a podcast or not. So to me, that's art. The only reason I watch movies is to have something to talk about. And this has plenty to talk about.
Let's give up something to talk about. I'd see, man, you guys are so unlucky that my voice is shot this week. Sean?
This movie is very much art. I love it. I think it's Matthew Broderick's second best role. I think that it's the only.
Did you say what the first was?
Ferris Bueller.
Okay, that's right. Okay, I couldn't remember. I'm like, I feel like he said it, but I couldn't quite guess. Go ahead. I'm so sorry.
I think it's the only movie that I can watch with Greasy Reezy in it, and it's really wonderful. And if you haven't seen it and we haven't talked it to death for you, check it out. It's great.
Yeah,
is she in Sweet Home Alabama?
Yeah.
I
think I saw that once.
See, I saw a lot of Greasy Reese movies on dates and stuff, so I got a lot of those because that was pure primetime dating time and everything when old Reese was kicking off there and everything, and all the ladies wanted to go see those movies. So. Yeah, it's an art for me. I actually, the first time I watched this, it was probably early 2000s and stuff. I didn't particularly like it, but I don't know what was going on with me. There's certain times in life where you're on like a train with certain types of movies and stuff, and then you watch something else that's a little bit off of that beaten track, and you're just like, this movie sucks. And then you go back and you like watch it later, and you're like, what was I thinking? This was actually really, really good. This was one of those cases where I first saw it and I was just like, I don't like this movie, but rewatching it several times. It's so good. It's fantastically good, and it's a great little. It's a time capsule for somebody like me that was going to high school in 1999 and stuff. So that's the reason why the next Criterion sale I will actually buy this, because this will be that kind of like comfort film to like throw on and be like, hey, remember what the late 90s were like? They were an awful lot like this show, and I really enjoyed it. So, yeah. Well, that is it, everybody. We are done with headliner Matthew Broaderick, but fear not, we got another half-ass theme for you, and we couldn't have dropped it at a better time because this sequel's coming out very soon. So next, we have actually decided to kick off our new series, Michael Keaton, with the original Tim Burton's Beetlejuice from 1988. So a whole new series starting up here with Michael Keaton, and we're going to start it off with those first two Beetlejuice films and everything. So we figure, hey, since Beetlejuice is coming in 2 weeks, let's start it out with the OG here and everything, and see how the two measure up against each other. How long has it been since you boys have seen Beetlejuice, the OG?
I've probably seen it the most recently of us because I think I watched it to get geared up last summer for Beetlejuice the musical when the family went and saw it in L.A.
Oh, yeah.
And I've seen it within the last 5 years.
Okay. Yeah, it's been many for me and everything. And I've got an interesting history with Beetlejuice that connects it more to the cartoon than one might suspect.
I was going to say, you're right in that sweet spot where you watched the cartoon way more than you saw the movie.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So, like, Beetlejuice, we'll talk all about that because, like,
What do you mean Beetlejuice isn't Lydia's best friend?
So much in for, but like, oh man, I got a lot of good stuff. We'll save it for next week, everybody. So that will do it for this episode of HMP. Next week, we're going Beetlejuice from 1988 for Sweet Sean Kovacs from the internet. Bruce Leslie, I'm Anna Porch, reminding you that the only difference between art and fart is an F.